we go, here we go. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 30 of Unfiltered. I'm your host, ChanManV, and today, man, we got an amazing show today. Lots and lots to talk about. This week that just went by was packed with lots of events, lots of drama, lots of follow-ups to things that we talked about last week, too. So we'll be kicking things off with events. So we're talking about Red Bull, we're talking about MLG, then followed by WCS 2014. I had Kim on right after this show last week, so it's been almost a full week since the announcement. So we'll get a chance to get opinions of these two guys. And then we'll finish things off with Twitch, the whole crazy Twitch drama, and then some follow-up to the Too Good Scarlet, and maybe talk about Sons of StarCraft a little bit, just some of the things in the news. And then lastly, the questions. Q&A with you guys. Any of the questions that you posted in the Reddit thread, we'll try to get to as many as we can. But let's get things started. We got my co-host each and every week, the one, the only Destiny. What's up, Steven?
What's up, buddy?
And then we got a special guest this week, first time ever, like on one of the ChanManV shows. It's the one, the only Idra, and he's actually the reason, truth be told, that I play Zerg is because of Greg here. So, I'm really happy to have you finally on one of the shows, Greg. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I think Unfiltered seems to be a very good format for you, I think. So, this should be really fun. But you're headed to IAM Singapore tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it's actually going to be a busy month. I have IAM Singapore tomorrow, and then that's for like a week-long thing, because IAM always does really long, like 4 or 5 day long events, so that's a big chunk of time. And then as soon as I get back, I'm going to be casting the Shoutcraft America thing with Total Biscuit. And right after that, there's actually a smaller tournament down in Louisiana that I have to go down to and cast along with Bitterdam, and then I have players like Huck and
Awesome.
Puck and a bunch of other players there.
Oh, that's good to hear, man.
Busy month for me.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because I think that more events should be having you cast, just doing analysis and that sort of thing, and it's good to see that starting to happen. Steven, what you got planned this week? Anything crazy?
Just stream and play the games. I'm going to be at that tournament that Idra talked about, though.
Oh, that's right. You training for that?
One, yeah.
Training for that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, every day, ladder warrior.
All right, good stuff. All right, let's kick things off with Red Bull Battlegrounds, which happened this past weekend. A couple of events this weekend, but we'll talk about Red Bull first. The StarCraft event, obviously, this is like the end of the year Red Bull championship, I guess you could call, where all the winners from the previous ones and a few that qualified through the events, make it into this tournament. You guys watch the event?
I didn't watch it live. I watched most of the VODs of Scarlet's games afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, I just kind of followed Scarlet through the tournament.
All right, yeah. I mean, Scarlet, I think, was the biggest storyline, and the Scarlet Hero, I think Game 3, I think everybody probably seen at this point. It was an amazing game, and she pulled it out, and the reaction afterwards, I think, kind of topped everything off. But before getting into the games, I have to say, the production for Red Bull, if you guys were able to catch the production, I thought they did a fantastic job. A lot of the fillers between matches were probably the best I've seen, even from documentaries. just pointing. I mean, it was really well done. I'm not sure you guys catch any of that.
I didn't actually see the live show, so I didn't see the between the game stuff. But even just in game, the production, like they constantly had polls and Twitter feeds, and the Twitter feeds usually come off pretty stupid. But I mean, you're drawing from the community, so it's gonna happen. But the polls and stuff that they work in, they were actually like relevant to the games, and they didn't make you cringe. It wasn't just like some random guy in production trying to fill space. And their overlay was really good. Pretty generic and accepted at this point, but I liked it. So overall, it just looked like a really nice, crisp, clean thing. And Red Bull always puts on good shows. I've never actually gotten to go to one, it hasn't worked out. But from all the players who have gone, they treat players like kings. They're just absolutely fantastic to work with from the sounds of it. So hopefully they'll be doing more stuff.
Yeah, I went to the one in Orlando. It was really nice. I mean, it was small, but still, everything about it was very cool. And Rob at that event was telling me that they had really big things planned. So this event, I think, was along those lines. Was really cool. Steven, any thoughts from what you saw, production-wise?
Pretty much the same thing. I mean, pretty much everybody said the downtime was handled really well. The polls weren't really stupid, like having to do with fan service stuff. The only complaint I would have about the overlay, everything was really cool about the overlay. The only complaint I had about it was that I don't think you could see what was inside dropships. and you can never see
Yeah.
like how many kills a unit has, which is really important in PvZ because most of the Protoss units get like double, triple digit kills. You know, you really want to see that sometimes. So. But other than that, yeah, I mean, everything was really cool. I like the icons over things to show you the upgrades. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did y'all see the logos? I mean, the logo. There was, wasn't it on that overlay where the sponsors were like cycling through the logos? Did you see that?
I know I saw Acer logos on the ground at least for Scarlet. So I'm not sure if they
Yeah.
just had like the team name or if it was actually going through
Oh
sponsors.
no, sorry, I was mixing it up. That's something that's coming in Game Heart. I was mixing that up with a preview that Ryan was giving me.
So I remember seeing
Oops,
the-
Ryan. Oops,
I
Ryan.
remember seeing the Wuzhong stars or whatever, their little logo, but I don't remember seeing cycling stuff.
Yeah. That's to come, guys. That's to come. I might have ruined that for Ryan, but yeah. But anyways, the interface was Game Heart, and it's really nice and clean. And I think they did a good job. Even the caster desk and the analysis desk, I felt like looked really clean. The video quality was very high, just high definition, just really bright and vibrant and that sort of thing. So I think they did a good job with that too. But Scarlet doing well, I think, helped the event by quite a bit. I'm not sure what the viewership got to. Viewers, did you catch what the viewership got to? Because
I want to say the
I wasn't
highest
really
I saw
watching.
was around 65, 70, I
Okay.
think, when Scarlet went, the epitome of like Scarlet versus the SOS.
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for Red Bull. Given that it was just what, 16-man tournament? Was it 16-man tournament? I think it was 16-man tournament. Right?
It's
So,
pretty small.
Um,
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
small
apparently it
tournament.
was around 60K according to chat.
Yeah.
I know it dropped off massively after Scarlet and got knocked out though.
Of course.
Like I heard people
Yeah.
saying like 30-40%. I'm
Of
not sure
course.
if that's but
Yeah,
I
it
thought
was
she
around, I
was-
think it was around like 40 to 45 for the finals, I think.
So, what'd you think about the Scarlet SOS series? Because I thought she was gonna take it, man. I thought maybe she had it in Game 3, but then games 4 and 5 were I think not that close. What'd you guys think? I know you guys love ZVP, so of course I have to ask
I
you
don't
that
know.
question.
Just every time I watch a pro play CVP, it just makes me feel worse about it. Because
You know
even when they
what?
win,
Yeah, somebody made a really good post on the StarCraft subreddit, and it's not a balanced wine, but it was a really good post. And the guy, basically what the guy was saying is, it's really hard to root for Protoss because they always feel like the villain. And the way that he had phrased that post was like perfect, you know, like, I don't know, like whenever I play against Protoss, it always seems like you have like a short, stocky character like the Zerg, and the Protoss is like a really tall, lanky person, and they just like put their arm on the head of the Zerg, and he's just like sitting there and he can't do anything, you know? Do you understand the visual?
What?
I don't know, like it just seems like whenever Protoss wins games, it's usually such a stomp, and there's very little back or forth with Protoss or Zerg, because both races, I think, have serious problems, you know? Like usually it's a stomp one way or the other, and I don't know.
that's a pretty fair analogy. And somehow over time, the tall person gets stronger, and it gets to the point where they can actually pick up the Zerg player and just like throw him against the wall.
Oh my god.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
those Terran units are really big, guys.
Terran? What? We're talking about PvZ?
I know. I'm just saying, like, if you're comparing the other race too, that's interesting.
I think it's just like I said, it's not a balanced thing, but like just the way that Protoss has been kind of shoehorned, it feels like everything just feels so dirty, you know? Force field feels really dirty. The recall ship feels really dirty. Warp prisms on the ramp feels dirty. Tempest feel dirty. I don't know. Everything just feels. The giant Protoss death balls feel dirty. It's not like the back and forth of like ZVT or even ZVZ or even TBT. You know, are all like relatively entertaining matches to watch and can be really back and forth. But I don't know.
It's basically just the Protoss has to try and survive until they get that air plus tech based death ball, and then they kind of just destroy you. So Zerg has this little timing window, and that timing window is getting shorter and shorter as Protoss learns to abuse the force field and the recall. And so
Yeah.
it really seems like Zerg is either flipping a coin, or then they just wait out a slow death until Protoss maxes and has 4 bases secured. It's really
Yeah, and it
painful.
used to be typically people would respond to that with, well, you just have to kill the Protoss before they get to that 4 or 5 base, or even just the 4 bases, or even just 3 base there. But on some of these maps, it's getting really hard to do that. Like that map where SOS did that Tempest opener, like the Protoss gets to defend all 3 bases with Tempest, and he gets a gold as part of the 3rd. And there's just not very much room for counterplay. Like it's really hard to do it. Or on really large maps, you know, it eliminates a lot of the Zerg timings because your ability to reinforce from all the way across the map, you know, it's such a long distance to travel, and I don't know.
What'd you think of the 7 pool opening into the whole Nidus? You know, Hydra
I-
Nidus and all that stuff.
I thought it was a smart cheese, especially against SOS. He really likes arrow openings. Most good Protosses like arrow openings, but SOS in particular. And so on a map like that, plus the 7 pool kind of sets up the nicest, because if you get 7 pooled, you're kind of just in panic, hold on, secure yourself mode. You're not thinking about dropping pylons all over your base. So there's actually a chance that a Nidus will get down when it usually wouldn't. But I mean, it's just that, it's a cheese. If he has a pylon over the edge of the base, he wins the game. But
maybe, yeah. But I don't know.
It was old
School,
man.
man. It was old school, yeah.
I thought that game kind of reminded me of the game of Jaedong versus Maru, where Jaedong opened with, I think it was a 9 pool or a 10 pool on the what's the map where you spawn top right lower left? What's the name of the map?
Top right, lower left.
Top right lower left. It's the star map. I don't think it's not Star Station. It's the other
Derelict
one.
Watch?
Yeah, Derelict Watch. Where Jaedong opened like 10 pool and he shoehorned Maru into a specific strategy for the entire game until he eventually closed it out at the end. And seeing Scarlet do that to a player like SOS I thought was really cool. She opened with the 7 pool, she had the Nidus follow up after that, she had the 3 bases going and then the Hydras and everything. I don't know, I thought that was a really entertaining game for me to watch. I feel like
it was really smartly played out.
Yeah, definitely.
It was really smartly played out from her, and I think Whirlwind used to definitely be more of a Zerg map because the third base was harder to take and it's a big map, so Zerg can secure a lot of bases and really abuse mobility. But Protosses are starting to just play it a little bit more conservatively and realize that the big map means you're not really going to want to go Swarm Host. You're definitely not going to want to go like an Air Death Ball as Zerg or anything, so they just kind of wait it out. So I think it was smart to cheese on there, and that was a really well-designed one for the way SOS plays.
Yeah, and when we're talking about SOS too, I mean, SOS is just fresh off a WCS championship too, right? And so he is playing Protoss. I know you guys hate Protoss, but he is the best Protoss right now. So in terms of Scarlet, go ahead.
The dick riding of SOS got to extreme levels. There were dicks coming out of every orifice of my body. Oh my god.
What?
Like, it's cool that he was a really good player, but literally every fucking thing, I almost started like the brilliant counter in the top left. Every single thing he did was utter brilliance. You're like, oh my god, like he made like a 9th probe and he put a pylon there and it was brilliant, and the way that he casted force field and like, holy shit, the dick ride from the casters was like in fucking overdrive mode. And that was any other Protoss, even any other Korean Protoss, I don't think the dick ride would have been quite that hard. It was just really dumb. I remember there were a few times where SOS did something that I would expect like an NA Masters Protoss to do, and like either Total Biscuit or Day 9 or somebody would be like, this is why he's the world champion, for doing like relatively basic shit. I don't know, that normally, like, I know we complain about that shit a lot, but I thought it was really extreme in the SOS games.
Well, I mean, SOS is like a Super Saiyan version of a ladder Protoss. He fucking cannon rushes and goes Mass Void Ray and just does all of the abusive stuff that every terrible Protoss likes to do, except he does it with amazingly good mechanics, within reason. So he's like all of their heroes. So he justifies the way they play.
The thing I know you hate this, Greg, but the thing that I appreciate from SOS is that he's kind of showing that there's still so much to be learned. Even from cheesing. There's still being super adept at cheesing.
I really don't feel like he's very adept at it. He does the right things, but I really don't feel like it's anything that creative or revolutionary or anything. He plays like someone who has nothing to lose, except he actually has the mechanics of someone who has something to lose. And when you combine those two, it's really scary.
This is something really weird, and maybe Idra has more to say on this, but it seems like every time Protosses will bring certain cheeses to tournaments to do some like crazy weird shit. Like, it's stuff that if you've played on the ladder, like, you've seen it a ton, but Protosses just don't do it much in tournaments. Why is that? I'm curious.
I really think it's what I kind of said before. A lot of it's pretty risky, or at least it's generally accepted as being risky, and it feels like you're just putting the game on a coin flip. And people who usually people who are playing for tens of thousands of dollars,
lots of money, maybe
full-time pro gamers,
guess, but
even really put that on the line.
Yeah. Like, the one thing that I've always been critical of Protoss, I don't know why Protosses don't try to abuse cannons more in the early game on a Fortress.
I don't either.
I know that you've played that fucking weeded Minsk kid more than once on ladder, right? Yeah. Like, it seems really strange to me. Like, there's so many free wins. Like, and I see it even in tournament games where, like, if he were to double pylon here, like, the Zerg doesn't have a scouted, it's a 100% free winner. Or I would put the Zerg in a really awkward spot. It's really weird not to see Protoss try to play more abusively in tournaments.
I really don't know, because the cannon rush in particular is one that's not super risky. Like, we saw SOS while Belshir was in the Korean tournaments, just literally every single game, even against Pool First, he would do that little one pylon cannon rush on Belshir.
Yeah.
And Zergs, like, they knew it was coming, they would go Pool First, and then they just found out they couldn't stop it anyway. But something
Yeah.
really funny happened actually at Asus. We were all sitting around watching a TV screen in the downtime, and someone had put up one of those Cannon Rushers streams. Not Wiedemann's, I don't think, but maybe one of the other
Galsey's
ones.
stream
Galsey or
Maybe,
something.
maybe
with
him, and we were
bubbles, or
watching him.
yeah.
And then Harston walks in and is like, "Oh, I bought lessons from that guy." He paid for 2 hours of lessons and just had him show him all of like the Canon
did.
locations and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like just a lot of Protoss pros, they wouldn't think to do that, and they don't put in the time to actually figure out all the good spots. So then maybe
Yeah.
they try it once or twice, but they do it sloppy and it fails, and you're like, well, I'm not going to risk that in a tournament. Maybe that'll happen again. So
Yeah, I mean,
it just
build-
come that late.
I really do think that if you're playing a Zerg and you know he 15 hatches, I think this 15 hatches auto loss 100% of the time against somebody who knows how to cannon rush. If you're playing somebody like, God forbid, Wiedemann's or like Combat X or whatever, any of the old people that were really good or want to be cool, if you 15 hatch against them, you're always going to lose. You will always lose if they cannon rush. And it seems strange that you see Zergs like 15 hatch in tournaments and Protoss will forge fast expand and they're like completely oblivious to that, Like I just want to take control sometimes, but like fucking just make 3 pylons like right there, like you win the game. Like how do you not realize that? I don't know.
It's a bit unexplored. I mean, I think, and that's why SOS, I think, coming up with some of those builds at WCS, off of a Cannon Rush opening was, enlightening to a lot. And eventually, I think you're right, Greg. Eventually, it'll just be considered risky, and then once everybody's seen it, figured it out, and it's part of the
Oh, no,
meta,
I don't think it's really risky. I agree with Steven. I think if you 15 hatch, you should be cannon rushed, and even if you cancel it and go build it up somewhere else, you should end up behind if they know like the proper
Right.
placements and
Or
stuff.
if you're playing Combat X, then he'll build more cannons near that third that you just made.
Yeah.
That's true.
And even and it's one of those things to where it's kind of like a, I don't know, if you compare it to like a Terran Reaper opening, where like if you build one pylon and a cannon at the bottom of the ramp and the Zerg ends up stopping it, it's not like they stopped it for free. Like you've got to pull, even if you pull first. I open fucking 13 pull and I still have to pull drones against early Protoss stuff like that. You have to pull drones to do it. So like even if you end up canceling the cannon, like you're still in an okay spot. It's not like you're super behind or anything.
It's like
Yeah.
how many,
And the offshoot of that is that if it does go up, you auto win the game.
and not to mention the Zergs have to really adapt their builds off of that too, and some people don't react very well to that sort of situation. But in terms of Scarlet, guys, like how close do you think she is to really being, viable, like somebody that will compete against the top Koreans every single tournament and potentially win an event? Like we're all waiting for Scarlet to win a big event. Do you think she's even close right now?
I think she's already at that point. Like her ZVT clearly is beat Bomber in a really good close series, and it was just like a purely mechanical. Like she was faster than, executing better than, making better decisions than the Bomber in all those games. Her ZVT is clearly up to snuff. Her ZVZ, I don't know if I've seen her play against like a really, really world class Zerg. I don't know if I've seen her play Jaedong or anything, but I would say she's probably pretty much at that level. And CVP, obviously, she has some weaknesses, but I feel any other Zerg would have the same kind of weaknesses against the likes of SOS and parting and stuff. She wins when she gets away with whatever she does early on, and if she doesn't, or the mutas don't work out, pretty much seems to be what it comes down to. If the mutas don't work out, then she ends up having a pretty tough time, and she has to really, really outplay them. But I would say...
I mean, how many even Korean Zergs would lose 3-2 to SOS? Like, how many Korean Zergs could do that? Like, I think Scarlet is definitely at that level,
We just saw him beat Jaedong in the finals, so I think she's on par with pretty much any Zerg.
Yeah, her ZVT
I'm hoping
is phenomenal.
I'm hoping she wins Singapore. I want to
God,
watch
I think her winning an event would be just so huge for the scene. And I know a lot of people like, what do you mean, just somebody winning a tournament? It's not the big deal. But her in particular, or if somebody like Naniwa, or somebody that's really popular foreigner wins a tournament, it would just be. I mean, I know Naniwa's a love-hate kind of thing, but still, even him winning a tournament, I think would be very, very huge. For,
I think it's set up right now that Scarlet is probably the most likely one. I think that Scarlet started playing. She's had a very clear climb towards the top. There hasn't been any like big fall offs of skill or anything, and she's progressively gotten better and better and better. And it seems like she's been stepping her game up over and over again. I don't know. Scarlet just seems like a really solid player that started from pretty much being unknown to climbing the ranks and never having a big drop off. In my opinion, from looking at her play.
Yeah, we haven't even really seen any kind of plateau besides the fact that she had to take a month off because of her wrists. That's the only thing I could see, like really getting in the way of things.
Yeah, her progression's been really great. I mean, you mentioned about her ZVZ. I think she started with a really strong ZVZ, and then she's kind of progressed to the point where her ZVT is top tier, maybe even the best, and some can argue. And then now it's just like ZVP. If she can just figure out ZVP, then she'll be pretty consistent, I think, at every single tournament, and that's going to be pretty exciting.
Sure.
But okay, anything else? Just wrapping up Red Bull. Any final thoughts? I mean, for me, it's just I'm really excited to see what they do for 2014 because Red Bull's essentially taking over what MLG used to be for StarCraft, and I don't know, that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, what do you guys think?
Pretty much, except a better version of it.
Oh, ouch.
Minus the open bracket. I mean, well, I mean, Red Bull's production is superior to MLG's production. Would anybody really argue that? I think that's pretty inarguable. The only thing we really missed from MLG, aside from Sundance's marvelous speeches, is the open bracket. But I don't know. I don't think that anything like that is ever going to come back again. It was really expensive to put on. MLG had the funds to subsidize it because of their enormous event. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. But
Yeah, I think the only thing you could ask for is like maybe more involved online qualifiers. I'm not sure if they even had one or if it was just a build up from the year of their events and the players they like.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, is that really all that important? We had like a lot of big entertaining players. We had the Foreign Hopes, and we had some exciting Korean stories, even with Golden's retirement and all that kind of stuff. Not sure how necessary that was. I thought it was pretty much perfectly fine.
Actually, to wrap it up, we should talk about the winner. I mean, I'm kind of a little remiss in not talking about the winner, which Parting did end up winning it, and Parting, definitely was talking that, was saying a lot of things before the tournament, how, he hasn't had that much success leading up to it, and he really feels like he's going to win this tournament. So, really kudos for him for really, walking the walk, I guess you could say, and winning this thing. And it's kind of entertaining. Of all the Koreans, it's kind of cool seeing Parting win because, he's not very mannered when he wins, and it's kind of cool to see somebody just super confident like that win.
Yeah, he hasn't won anything in a while either, so it's nice to see him come back and kind of actually compete, because it's been a lot of downtime. Everyone's been touting SOS, and I really think that Parting is some much more like talented. He's much better at the parts of the game. He's much better at the parts of the game that I respect. So I'm quite biased when it comes to that, but I definitely respect Parting a lot more than SOS.
Okay. All right. Very cool. All right. Let's move on to MLG Columbus. And actually, MLG had a few bits of news. They started out the week with announcing their streaming service, and it's basically the first. Well, I wouldn't say the first, but it's one of the companies that will be somewhat of a competitor to Twitch, right, for events. I think it's more so for events, and obviously all the MLG events will be using this player more so than Twitch. What do you guys have any thoughts on this?
Is it something they're making public? Are they streaming non-MLG stuff on it? I got the impression it was just their own personal player that they use.
No, it's open. It's open to other folks. The way the PR release.
Are you sure?
Here. Yeah, let me bring it up.
I thought it was only to be used for like MLG events.
Personal streamers could go and have their stream on there.
I don't know about personal streamers, but other events can use it. Let me actually.
Other events like events associated with MLG, or
like, do they have to hire the MLG staff to run their stuff then, or is it just like Twitch except not Twitch?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's like I don't actually know the specifics of it, but
I was on the impression that it was just them doing their own streaming service for themselves and their events.
Yeah, because there's a quote from Sundays. We leveraged our experience as a top online bracket to create the ultimate environment for not only our content but other industry leaders as well. So I don't know. I kind of took that as if they might be providing the service to other folks too.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to say more when it comes out.
Yeah. But anyway, regardless, even if it's just for their stuff.
They did something like this in the past, no? Didn't they used to have their own streaming thing that they would use like in 2011 for MLGs?
Yeah, they were trialing it with the MLG, the things where they flew everyone into their New York office, the smaller in-between events. I remember them doing that on their own player. But maybe that was just like a Twitch embed on their site. I'm not really sure how that worked.
Yeah, I don't think it performed very well either. They're just that player.
The player seemed pretty good, and it had a bunch of different channels on it. You could hop around between them, but each time the stream would like have to load, and you would get an ad and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it was good quality. There didn't seem to be too many problems. I know people were complaining about audio problems, but I didn't notice too much. It seemed fine. I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot of talk about it, so that's probably a good sign. It means things didn't fuck up too bad.
That's like we were just talking about, man. When there's no news when things go right. That's how the community generally goes when it's with some of these events. But let's talk about LNG Columbus. There's no StarCraft 2 there, so obviously it didn't show up too much in our StarCraft. But there was a lot of Dota 2, a lot of Call of Duty, and personally, I didn't watch too much of it at all. I know that Complexity ended up winning the Call of Duty Ghost. It's the first Ghost event, and then the Dota 2 portion was shoot, sorry about that. So the Dota 2 had a few storylines where I guess EG and Alliance didn't actually do too well, right? And then even DK started a little slow, but in the end, I think in the end with Speed being, I guess, a team that wasn't even originally going to play in it in the event ended up coming out victorious. I don't know, Greg, you ended up watching the event, right? Why don't you?
Yeah, Alliance I think was the biggest surprise. They didn't even make it into the playoffs. They fell short of a tiebreaker. Didn't even make it into that.
Mm-hmm.
EG also did badly, but they didn't have the best performances leading into it anyway. So that wasn't like a huge surprise. It was still disappointing. They basically only beat like the people who qualified from the open tournament, the guys who weren't really supposed to, who didn't beat anyone, and then one other team. But yeah, Speed Gaming was like the exciting story of the event because one of their players from Romania and like couldn't get in on visa issues or something like that. He couldn't come to the event, so they had Arteezy, who's basically just like a pub stomper. Like everyone knows he's really good. He's like professional players respect him a lot, but it was his first major LAN or anything, and they had him come and play as a stand-in, and he kind of just wrecked everyone once he got going. They had a really bad first day because of travel issues, and then went undefeated for the rest of the tournament. And beat DK, and no one expected them to win it at all. It was like a really fun, exciting story. And they're kind of like the trolley, like they're kind of a trolley group. I mean, everyone in the Dota community is trolley, but they are known as a group of that kind of people. So it was pretty entertaining.
Okay, I mean,
it was a really good event. A lot of fun games to watch. Really good production, and just everything was very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there was 400K concurrent. Was what I think Adam was tweeting. And which is amazing. I mean, has MLG ever had numbers like that? I don't think they've.
I know the peak for StarCraft 2 was like 175,000.
Yeah, here's kind of a picture from the event. So it looks like a lot of live audience too. Or the live audience is quite big here. And yeah, so anyways, that's it. Looked like it was a pretty great event, and didn't hear too much about it. So I mean, again, that usually means that things went really well. And MLG, there's usually some kind of thing that pops up at the end of MLGs, whether it's like, just a little bit of criticism or not, but not this event. So end of the year, it's good stuff for MLG, and hopefully we'll see some StarCraft 2 at one of the events this coming year. You guys think that MLG will do any StarCraft 2 in 2014?
I don't know. I was kind of optimistic earlier, but I think they're actually kind of likely to go. I think they're really happy with what happened with Dota. At first I thought they were just using it because the League LCS season had finished, so they couldn't have a big league event there, and they wanted an alternative. Yeah. But now they're like tweeting about making plans for Dota for next year and whatnot. So I think they might be hopping on board that boat instead. I don't know. At this point, I'd honestly be kind of surprised if they did anything big with StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
I mean, what would they knock out to put StarCraft 2 back in?
Well, they're running 2 games, right? They ran 2 games this weekend. I believe, right? Yeah, it's just Call of Duty and Dota 2. So, I mean, they've ran 3 in the past. It's not that they couldn't do 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a space issue. I'm just not sure if, they're going to pull out and then go back into StarCraft. Like, if they didn't think it was going to be a worthwhile investment right now, is it actually going to be better next year?
Yeah.
Maybe the changes to WCS make it more... Because I think a big part of the reason they pulled out was they were really unhappy with what their part in WCS was back before it switched over to NASL.
Yeah.
And maybe that scared them off, and they can take a different approach next year. That's the only thing we can hope for that I can see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be great to have them back doing SC2. We could use some more North American events. But okay, yeah, so kudos to MLG for a good event. Let's move on to WCS 2014. And this was announced Wednesday. I had Kim Fan on just a special Climbing the Ladder. I did a quick interview with her, and we found out some more details about it. Greg, you wrote an article for On Gamers, which was pretty cool. But Steven, I haven't really heard your opinions on it at all. So what do you think of all the details of the 2014 announcement?
I don't know. It seems cool. It seems like, in talking to a few people, it seems like a lot of Koreans are still going to be stuck in the other regions, so it doesn't do much to address that, which was kind of like the main thing I was looking towards, so I don't know.
That's it?
Well, I mean, what else do you give a fuck about? I mean, nothing else matters if you can't get in.
Okay, well, all right. Greg, for those of you that didn't read his article, what are your first thoughts? Maybe the biggest points for you with the announcement?
Yeah, I agree. They obviously they're kind of making steps towards region locking. Obviously, you're only allowed to have two new non-Koreans or two new non-Americans into the North American WCS per season.
Yep.
But then they're just allowing all of the Koreans who are already in to stay, and I can kind of see that because they feel like it would be unfair to kick them out after they've earned their spots.
Yeah.
So their policies from last year just kind of messed it up for them. There's no good answer here because they obviously recognize that they need to reach and lock it and that the existing system failed. But then what do you do about that? Because you can't kick them out, but you really want to, and it's not going to work until you do. So
Right.
they're in a tough position with that. And for the time being, at least, it's going to be pretty much the same as it was last year. But the other bigger thing that I really think is going to matter a lot to North American players and streamers of all types and whatnot is that they seem to be planning to broadcast way, way less of the event.
Yes.
They said something like 2 days per week for 10
days,
weeks
yeah.
per season.
2 weekends.
And-
or 2 weekdays.
And only 3 seasons over the entire year, whereas previously it was supposed to be 4. So just generally there's going to be a lot less content coming out from them. So there's more room for streamers during the day and then other events too. Like just the community won't be so oversaturated with content. We can actually have other events that will still get viewership. So I think that could actually be a pretty big deal because that's a massive drop off in content compared to what we had from the past year.
Yeah, the getting rid of the season finals, I think, eliminates a lot of these crazy visa issues too, where some players have to get visas in like a week or 2 weeks, and that was not doable a lot of times, and it caused a lot of drama there. So yeah, just much more space. The actual qualifier, challenger, and premier are in order too. They're kind of sequentially done, so it's not going to be a lot of overlap, and you're able to kind of follow it just piece by piece instead of having to try to figure out 2 things at once and that sort of thing. So it's really, really nice. Even from content, just community content like this show, it's so much better just having them do 2 days versus us having to juggle or plan around that 1 hour gap that we have between EU and America. It's been really, really tough for even us. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think that was probably the biggest part for me. Was that more so than region.
I still remember the days of MLG. I would never ever turn on the MLG stream because it was like always a rebroadcast. That kind of
Oh,
shit
God.
got really fucking annoying.
Ugh.
I know that other
Yeah.
people would do it too, where there would be like these rebroadcast stations running like 24/7, like 400 viewers on like an MLG finals because it's like the 97th rebroadcast or something. That shit got really old. So that's another good thing about the WCS too, is that there will be 2 days where everybody, as many uniques as possible will go and watch the stream, and then like that'll be it. And you won't have like the 7 days a week, the constant churning out of content.
I mean, you can actually follow multiple regions too. I think before it was impossible to really follow Korea. I mean, I
Sure.
barely even followed Korea because EU and NA were just so much already.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we don't run into scenarios again where we have all 3 finals scheduled on like the same weekend again too.
All right, so
That's okay,
Korea.
but they
So what do you
did.
think about the Korea thing, man? They get paid more, but it goes all to first place. What are your thoughts on that, Greg?
Wait, really?
Always
Wait.
been.
I'm
Yeah, they
sorry,
get
what's
higher
that?
prize pool, but it's very top heavy.
It's
Oh,
very.
that
It's
sucks.
like the winner. It's like that's it. It's like 30,000 or 35,000 difference, and it all goes to the winner.
They've always been like that though. Like
It's so-
back when they did the initial GSL seasons, when it was like a $95,000 prize pool or whatever, it was a similar kind of distribution. I'm not actually sure why they do that. It's most likely just for the prestige of saying our first place winner gets X thousands dollars, just because it sounds
I
better
guess.
than saying, yeah, he
But it
makes
seems
like 20,000, but the next guy gets 15,000. Which is really cool.
It seems like everybody always
Yeah.
talks about only prize pool anyway, though. I don't actually. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of rare to hear somebody say like, "Oh, well, this tournament, first place gets 20,000." Usually, it's, "Oh, this is a $100,000 tournament." StarCraft 2 is already an insanely. I mean, everything in esports is insanely top heavy. So it's a little bit discouraging to see them make a prize pool that's top heavy on top of that.
Yeah.
And the whole point of giving more to WCS Korea was, or just Codes, or whatever you want to call it, is it was to help support more of the top players, right? They're what's
Yeah.
revered as the top the top skilled players in that region. And this doesn't even do that. This just like literally gives it to one person. And if you look at the details, 5th through 32, you make more in America and EU than you do in Korea. So
Really?
it's like,
I think especially in Korea, I would be more interested in seeing them shave like 30 or 40% off like the top 4 and like distribute it to the bottom, just because there are so many amazing players in Korea. It really sucks that we only ever hear about, so many Koreans at a time, because the entire Korea market is like a big freaking, it's impossible to make it down there. So many of the teams aren't even salaried, and a lot of those people only can make a living off of, whatever money they can get in tournament winnings and whatnot. So it's pretty disappointing to see that system be so top heavy when they almost need the money more than us. As much as we joke about esports dying in NA or EU, like Korea is really like the place that gets hit the hardest, because they're the place that bought into like the League of Legends harder than anybody else. So that's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like the increase in prize pool is being introduced because they are forcing a lot of Koreans to play in the Korean region. They're making it much harder to play in North America and Europe for the lesser, like the mid-level Korean pros who are obviously good enough to beat foreigners, but they're not going to be winning Code S. And so increasing the prize pool, but only at the very top, does absolutely nothing for them, because the reason they were playing NA and EU in the first place was because they knew they couldn't win Code S.
Yeah,
Exceptions.
The guy that's winning fucking Code S, or the guy that's coming out on the best player in the world, isn't the one that needs like, I need an extra 20,000, like that guy's already doing okay,
Yeah, it makes much more sense for them to spread it out. The only possible thing I can think of is just the prestige, because even if 90% of the time we talk about it being a $100,000 tournament, the next thing you're going to say is, oh, how much does first place make? You're never going to say, oh, well, what's the overall distribution from place 32 on? So maybe they're really so selfish and short-sighted that they're just looking at that, because I really don't see any other reason to have it be that bad.
So outside of resetting, just resetting the folks that are already in top 8, which you kind of talked about, having a lot of Koreans, particularly in NA or the America, what else would you have changed? Like, what else do you wish they would have done a little bit more this time around? Because I think they had a lot of great starting points, I guess, or things that they're starting to do at this point. But I wanted to see what you guys thought could have been a little bit better.
The biggest thing would just be to bite the bullet, say they messed up, and say sorry to the Koreans, but it's a North American only tournament now. Because I think that, like, maybe have the 2 slots for them to still be able to qualify, but even that, I don't think so. Because it really seems...
At the very least, they should have removed those slots. I don't understand why we need to funnel into more people.
The 2 slots make absolutely no sense to me. Because
Well,
they're basically saying that it should be region lock, it should be a North American only tournament. But then there's a reason for the existing Koreans to stay in, because they earn their slots there. So it kind of makes sense to say that they can stay in. But then to say that 2 more can join every season, like, why do you need to have that? What's the purpose?
It would have been okay if there are a lot of things they could have did to make it okay, but they tried to do like the best of both worlds. Like the 2 slots is actually a really good idea if they kick everybody out, because then at least there are the people like, oh well, we still want the best players and blah blah. Like, okay, well, there are 2 slots for Koreans in each other region that they can still qualify for if they decide to go that route, which would make sense if the league wasn't already full of Koreans, like if they would have kicked all the Koreans out and opened the 2 slots, then that's fine. But like as it stands right now, like no Korean is going to leave NA or EU because the distribution of prize money in Korea didn't get any better, and if you're not going to be finishing for it, like the people that come over to NA or EU to win EC money are already probably not the people that are going to want to, compete in the Korean GSL. So I don't know, it seems like there was a lot of disorganization or mixed conflict when it came to figuring out how to organize all that.
Well, so I kind of want to, I guess, argue with the point that, Greg, that you said that it's kind of clear that they want an NA-only tournament. I don't think that's clear based on what they said. I mean, like when I had Kim on, the mission statement is really
what
still
they said
have
or
the
what
best
they
player.
did, because it's really...
Yeah, because obviously they're going to say that because they're not going to be able to have a North American only tournament unless they kind of just bend the rules and don't worry about hurting people's feelings. So they're not going to say that we want this to be only North Americans. They just kind of can't. I think they recognize that the tournament would better serve the pro gaming community, would better grow esports, as corny as that sounds, and it would just do better overall for pretty much everyone except for the mid-level Koreans if it were completely region locked and it were more of an Olympics kind of national into international competition. But they just can't say that because they don't have an acceptable to them way to make it happen.
We've only been talking about the Koreans. I mean, how about the Chinese players? They have slots too, and the SEA players, right? So, what do you guys think of that?
For different regions to incorporate them in. I mean, like there has to be a way to work in other regions without saying like, well, the only way to do it is if Korea takes over every single region. Like there has to be a way to integrate those regions into other WCS regions without opening it up to Koreans flooding through every other region. Like 15 Koreans in the top 16 of WCSNA, like that can't happen.
They've already pretty much done it. I mean, they've said that every challenger, or every time they have a challenger league, X spots are reserved for North Americans, Y spots are reserved for Chinese, Z spots are reserved for Southeast Asians, and then there's the 2 wildcard spots. They just shouldn't have the 2 wildcard spots.
Okay, so you guys have no problems with the other regions though. It's just really just the Koreans.
Yeah.
Well, the Koreans are the one who, honestly, there's the ones who are better. They have all of the everything that we always talk about. They have the established training houses and practice regime and the culture, that just all of the stuff that everyone always talks about that makes Koreans better at the game. They're better, and if they come over, they're going to beat the North Americans. And it's not just like a hypothetical concern like it was back at the start. A lot of North American players have quit because they would play Challenger League, they would run into a Korean, they would get knocked out every single time. It's just, that's how it worked.
Like how many professional NA players? How many professional NA players do you even know anymore, Chanman? Like how many can you list? I can't list. I don't think I can list any.
I mean, it depends how you define professional. I mean, we got, the Suppies, the Hucks, the Scarlets, the Muslims. I mean, just look at, there's certain teams that are still primarily NA, or at least a good amount of it's still NA players. So you still have some. It's just they're not having any success.
Yeah. And even like of the very few that you can name, you can't even name those guys because they're actually placing well. You just kind of know those guys, It's not even like we can point to like, oh well, here are 6 or 7 NA people that are doing well in tournaments, and there's a bunch of other NA pro gamers. It's like there's really like a really small number of people that you could really say are professional NA players,
And back at the start of WCS, like the main point of it was we're trying to provide a competitive platform for the up and coming players. Like that's what Challenger League was. That's where you're supposed to be able to prove yourself and make a name for yourself and rise up and become a pro gamer. And if anything, it's gone the other way. Like how many of the complexity players or the ladder heroes who were supposed to find their glory here, how many of them are actually still even competing, much less being successful in WCS?
Well,
yeah, that's a really strange thing too, because if you remember at the inception of WCS, that's what everybody was excited for. Like, really, and I'm not trying to talk shit on Blizzard or anything. Not that I don't love talking shit on Blizzard, but WCS doesn't really bring anything new to the table right now. Like, before WCS, we already had a fuck ton of players who were we already had a fuck ton of Koreans winning every single tournament. Koreans coming over to win, whether it's the Asus ROG, whether it's the DreamHacks, whether it's the MLGs, whether it's the Redbull. Like, Koreans were winning everything. Well, then WCS comes in, World Championship, regional finals, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Koreans winning everything. It's like, oh well, like what was the point of WCS? Like Blizzard were the people with the big dicks that had the power to be like, we're gonna fucking make this shit regional and blah blah blah. And like that was the cool thing about WCS coming in. But really, all WCS did was bring all of our old tournaments under a new name because nothing really changed.
Yeah. What's funny is that like SOS wins the world championships, and a lot of people still don't really recognize him as like the champion. That's the main reason for WCS was to crown a yearly champion. It's
going to crown him in name, but it's never going to actually happen unless the person who wins it also happens to have won WCS Korea recently and is just a consensus dominant player. The game is just isn't that consistent.
That's why I've always been a proponent of more of a major system. Like,
I don't think it's the system. I think it's just the players. There's only, in my mind, there's only one player that I could ever see as being like crowned as like the best player in the world for an extended period of time. That was MVP. Like, do you think any other player?
I think Innovation had
it's
a fair claim to it for a few months period earlier this year.
And sure, but for more than like just a couple months, I think MVP is like the only one that's even come close to that. But like if you just, even if it's the WCS finals, just it's the nature of StarCraft 2 being a game. the game that it is. Like, if you really wanted to know like who the best player was, like really, like legitimately wanted to know, you would be playing like a 32 bracket tournament, and when you'd be playing like best of 15s. Like, if you really wanted to know, because StarCraft 2 can be a relatively variable game where if somebody gets a bad bracket placement, like their success for that tournament could be fucked. And if it's a major tournament, like that could affect your results for that year and what people say about you. And even within a certain series, within a best of 3 or a best of 5, the map pool or the strategies that each people elect, or if you're unlucky and you play Zerg, like there's so many things that can affect whether or not you'll make it through, that when you're playing such a few number of games in so many large tournaments, I don't know, it can be really hard to crown like a champion and to have people do consistent over long periods of time.
Yeah, how many times do we see someone lose to someone even in like a best of 5 in one tournament and then turn around the next week and the reverse result happened? Like, if you actually wanted to crown someone, you would have like Swiss system best of 5s.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a horrendously boring tournament that no one would want to watch. So like,
sure,
they can pay lip service to crowning an actual world champion as much as they want, but it's not practical. There is an entertainment aspect to it that's going to have to be maintained, and that's always going to taint it a little bit. You're not going to have a straight bracket and decide who the best player is. Like, it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but I think that's fine. I mean, it's an entertainment product more so than a legitimate competition.
That's why I always thought that the major system worked, because a career kind of speaks for itself. Like if you don't have to win multiple events in a row. You just have to win events over time. Something that's similar to poker, right? Poker has a lot of variance too, and the way you define yourself as a successful poker player is how many bracelets you have over like long periods of time. And I think StarCraft is it's kind of like that with the variance in it too.
That's really hard to compare though, because you've got people like Phil Hellmuth who have been playing poker competitively for like 20 years, which is longer than before even StarCraft came out. I don't know. It's really hard to compare those things.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but similar in some ways too. But
we're also still pretty early in the game. The game's evolving a lot. Like, winning games in the first, or winning tournaments early in the first few GSLs as compared to winning now is pretty much meaningless. Like, yeah, it's cool you were there right at the start and you were one of the best right at the start, but it's just the level of competition is not even close. Like, not even talking about just the evolution of the game. It's just there's way more people playing it way more seriously now than there were then. So even that is just, I think people just need to not worry about that and watch the tournament and enjoy people playing the games, and whoever plays better that day, maybe they win, or even if they don't, then hopefully they were good games. Like,
sure,
it's just too variable of a thing in so many different ways. I don't think you can try and crown a best player unless they have a performance like MVP, where they're clearly winning tournaments in multiple different eras over ridiculous periods of time, and just like absurdly consistent, and yet at the same time very different ways. Like, that's the kind of performance that actually creates the best player in the world kind of thing.
Yep, agreed. All right, but wrapping up WCS 2014, I think one of the things that Kim mentioned too is that the schedules are going to come out soon. So hopefully we'll see what Season 1 of 2014 is going to look like, and we'll have a lot less overlaps with events, and then therefore we'll see a lot more events in the NA, EU, and just everywhere in the world, even Korea. Actually, what do you guys think about OGN taking a step back? We didn't even talk about that. And
didn't they just get like fucked completely? Are they done? Are they still doing Pro League?
I think people are still hoping that they'll do OSL events and Pro League, but I don't know if they're going to be doing it anymore. Pro League.
It seemed like that was like the sword that they had to die on or like fight over. Like, it was going to be between like OGN and the other dudes for doing like the WCS in Korea. And since OGN lost, they're like fucked, aren't they? I don't know.
Well, the announcement said that OGN retains broadcasting rights to both StarCraft and StarCraft 2, but at the time they don't have, and they're like able to host those WCS global events. Like, they're able to do stuff, but they currently have no plans to do so. And there were already rumors going around that they just weren't going to do StarCraft anymore, that they were switching over to League of Legends and putting all of their chips in that pot. And to me, this kind of just suggests that they're doing that they're kind of done with StarCraft, because all the KESPA teams have been failing pretty badly in terms of losing sponsorships and money and just not being successful. Like, StarCraft just didn't really take on the way Brood War did in Korea.
I mean, they even mentioned going into Hearthstone, OGN.
Really?
So, yeah, they even mentioned going into yes, they did.
Well,
at the same time. So yeah, that's kind of. I think that's another indication that they might not be doing any StarCraft 2. But on a positive note, I think for the viewers, it's good that they only have one partner now in Korea, instead of having to switch how they were doing this weird thing between season and season. So GOM's going to be able to take it over, and Code S, everybody loves Code S and Code A. So I think it's going to be back to normal from what we're used to, at least from a StarCraft 2 viewership. So that's going to be cool. But anyways, yeah, so WCS 2014, hopefully, I'm pretty excited. I'm really eager to see how Season 1 goes. But moving on, let's go... Actually, should we take a quick break? Let's take a quick break, and then we'll move on to the Twitch drama, which I'll link a bunch of stuff in here so you guys can catch up on it a little bit before we go into
Remove
it.
horror. Can you do me a favor? Change your title on Twitch to remove horror and see what happens.
Oh, no, I'm not
See if
doing
the stream gets
that.
shut
I'm
down.
not doing that. Jesus.